This is Alison Rourke bringing you the top stories on the first day of this crucial week for Brexit. With the clock ticking down to Tuesday's crucial parliamentary Brexit vote, Theresa May faces the daunting task of winning over 100-plus rebel Tory MPs. With little sign any of them plan to change their position, the Northern Ireland Secretary, Karen Bradley, has warned that the whole of the UK could be scarred by divisions, similar to the historic divides that have riven Northern Ireland. When the dust settles on Brexit, we must move forward in order that we can put some of the division about the nature of our country's relationship with the European Union behind us, she writes in The Guardian. The European Court of Justice is likely to rule today that it is possible for the UK to unilaterally revoke Article 50. Number 10 sees this as a useful ruling, which could be used to help it make the case to rebellious MPs that Brexit itself is at risk. On the left, a new coalition has emerged, urging Labour to reject Brexit. The Remain supporting coalition of Momentum activists, local party chairs and Labour councillors is trying to persuade the Labour leadership to ditch a commitment to Brexit in any snap election manifesto. Meanwhile, a pair of hedge funds owned by prominent Brexit supporters have made significant bets against companies exposed to the British consumer, including big high street names. O'Day Asset Management, part owned by Crispin O'Day, and Marshall Ways, part owned by Sir Paul Marshall, have in effect wagered significant sums on certain shares falling in value, including retailers, estate agents and banks. Your daughter should have been safe here. New Zealand's Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, has made an emotional apology to the family of murdered British backpacker Grace Millane, as the man accused of her murder appeared in court for the first time. Ardern said there was a collective feeling of shame in her country over the fate of Millane, whose body was found on Sunday in dense bushland in western Auckland. There is this overwhelming sense of hurt and shame that this has happened in our country, a place that prides itself on our hospitality, on our manaaki tonga, she said, using the Maori word for welcoming others. So on behalf of New Zealand, I want to apologize to Grace's family. Your daughter should have been safe here and she wasn't, and I'm sorry for that. Her sentiments were echoed on social media with the hashtag. The 26-year-old accused cannot be named for legal reasons has been remanded in custody. Jacinda Ardern, hurt and shame over Britain's death. Video Macron to address nation. The embattled French president will address the country tonight after a fourth weekend of violence sparked by the Gilets Jaunes movement. His speech at 8 p.m. local time will be his first public comments on the anti-government demonstrations. It is clear that we underestimated people's need to make themselves heard, government spokesman Benjamin Griveaux told a radio station on Sunday. As well as destructive protests in Paris, violence also broke out at Gilets Jaunes demonstrations in Marseille, Bordeaux, Lyon, Nantes, Dijon and Toulouse on the weekend. Crossrail delays. The new, high-capacity train line across London could swallow up another £1 billion in funding and be delayed beyond 2019, ministers are expected to admit this week. The flagship construction project had originally been due to be opened on the weekend by the Queen, but problems with complex new signalling systems delayed testing trains in the central core. Climate change or crash. Global investors managing $32 trillion have issued a stark warning to governments at the UN Climate Summit in Poland, demanding urgent cuts in carbon emissions and the phasing out of all coal burning. Without these, the world faces a financial crash several times worse than the 2008 crisis, they said. The investors, including some world's biggest pension, insurance, and asset management funds, called for an end to fossil fuel subsidies and for substantial carbon taxes to be introduced. The push comes as BP, Chevron and ExxonMobil face a shareholder challenge to set carbon targets in line with the Paris Climate Agreement. Just a story about rabbits. It has been endlessly picked apart and analyzed and described as an allegory for both communism and Christianity, but the daughters of Richard Adams have revealed the true meaning of Watership Down. Rosamund and Juliet, to whom the story was first told to keep them quiet in the car, said many who wrote to their father overthought the story. Is Woundward an allegory of Stalin? Is Hazel Jesus Christ? It shows that people really connect with the story, they really think hard about it, but it cut no ice with Dad. Rubbish, he always said. It's just a story about rabbits, Rosamund said. Watership Down is just a story about rabbits, say author's daughters. Photograph, screen grab, Watership Down today in focus. What is it like to fear your own child? Child-on-parent violence is a taboo subject and one that is hardly researched in the UK. We speak to Leslie, a mother who lives with daily violence from her eldest son. It has devastated family life and exposed gaps in a system not set up to deal with the problem. Plus, Emma Graham Harrison on the Nobel Peace Prize winners Denis Mukwege and Nadia Murad, who receive their awards today. There is very little research in the UK into child-on-parent violence. Photograph, Dominic Lipinski, PA Lunchtime read, 24 Ways to Lead an Anti-Capitalist Life Amid the Encroaching Dark and Increasingly Foul Weather. December is synonymous with stampedes to the supermarket, endless online clicks, and the massed roar of delivery lorries. But for those keen to buck the trend of Christmas purchasing Armageddon, The Guardian's John Harris asked readers for their best tips on non-capitalist living, with surprising tips to reuse, recycle and opt out. Here are 3 of the best. Starting a bike collective was one reader's recommendation on non-capitalist living. Photograph, Commerce and Culture Agency, Getty Images set up a collective bike workshop. As a volunteer, I co-run a community bicycle workshop, helping people repair their bikes, said a reader in Essex. Sheer discarded food. Once a week we collect surplus food from local shops and supermarkets. Then in the evening we make a 3-course meal from the ingredients, free for anyone who turns up. Stop buying soap. I haven't bought washing detergent, shampoo or conditioner since June. I wash my hair with soap knit liquid followed by apple cider vinegar. It takes a bit of pre-planning because the soap knit liquid spoils after a week, but it takes no time at all to boil the soap nuts on a Sunday evening or mix the vinegar with water. Sport Raheem Sterling has kicked up a storm, but as ever the outrage will pass, writes Stan Collymore. The England forward's Instagram post has got people, journalists especially, talking about racism, but nothing will change. It never does. Ronnie O'Sullivan claimed a record-breaking 7th UK Championship title with a 10-6 victory over Mark Allen at the York Barbican. The game that would never end reached the very end as River Plate claimed the Copa Libertadores title against 10-man Boca Juniors after extra time in Madrid. David Luiz's future at Chelsea beyond the summer has been cast into considerable doubt after the club's hierarchy made it clear they are reluctant to change their policy of offering only 1-year contract extensions to players in their 30s. And there were no riots or tear gas canisters inside Racing Metro's stunning new indoor home, but an 80-minute water cannon bombardment might have been less arduous than some of the on-field punishment Leicester soaked up en route to a 14th defeat in their last 15 European forays across the Channel. Business. The UK's high streets are facing their quietest Christmas since the credit crunch, forecasts say. A combination of low consumer confidence because of Brexit, more agile online competitors and Christmas shoppers increasingly buying experiences such as concert tickets instead of products, will combine to ruin the season for more high street stores, said the retail research group Springboard. If the Springboard prediction proves correct, it will be the 9th December out of the last 10 in which bricks and mortar retailers have attracted fewer shoppers. Stocks extended their slump in early Asian trade with U.S. equity futures off to a softer start as worries over U.S.-China trade tensions battered investor sentiment. The pound is buying €1.115 and $1.275. The paper's photograph, The Guardian. It is almost all about Brexit on the front pages of the papers today. Many of them predict that this week could be May's last in the top job. The says, Tory rivals line up to oust May. The Times' Splash has made a face leadership battle over Brexit deal. The Mirror says we are seeing the end of May's reign, and The Telegraph has May praise for deliverance as vote looms. The Guardian's led as May in race to win over rebels amid clamour to call off vote, and The Express says May has been speaking to Donald Tusk in this battle to fix Brexit. The Mail's lead story is, drug driving at record level. The FT has Brexit news on its front, but leads with Crossrail set for new £1 billion bailout as delays and cost overruns pile up, and The Sun has, Queen's driver abused boy at Palace. You can read our full coverage of the morning papers here. For more news, www.theguardian.com. Sign up. The Guardian Morning Briefing is delivered to thousands of inboxes bright and early every weekday. If you are not already receiving it by email, you can sign up here. This article was amended on the 10th of December 2018 because Emmanuel Macron is the president of France, not the country's prime minister, as an earlier version said.